took Spanish 3 years in high school, but I didn't so.
All right, it is 5 o'clock. With quorum being present, we'll call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone. We're here tonight to deal with school business, talk about some very difficult issues. We're in a financial mess or crisis, however you want to put it. Tonight the focus will be on how we got here and what we need to do to correct our course. We want to be totally open in every way we're allowed to, so bear with us, and there'll be a couple of opportunities for comments later. And just in ensuring that everyone has an opportunity to speak, we're going to limit comments to 3 minutes, and that time will be for comments only. We won't be able to respond to questions. All right, Dr. Spence.
Thank you.
Turn it over to you.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to apologize again to the board and to the community members that are here. I love our school and community very much and would never purposely put us into the mess that we're in. That being said, we're here, and I will do whatever I can to correct the problem and get us out of the position that we find ourselves in. So the 25 budget amendment recommendation. First of all, let me just preface this with this presentation was prepared with Carol Embry. The board is aware of Carol. Carol has over 30 years of experience supporting business aspects of public education. She retired in 2021 as Deputy Superintendent of Operations for Springfield Public Schools, the largest district in the state of Missouri, and she's also served students in Liberty, Blue Springs, Clinton, and most recently Francis Howell School District. So Carol Embry brings a lot of experience, and she is someone who has been very close to me for the last couple of weeks as we figure out what went wrong and what we can do to correct the situation. So she helped, she didn't just help, she had a large hand in preparing all the information that you'll see tonight. So discussion items for our first part of the session this evening. Primary funds and levy information, the general budget summary for 23-24, summary for 24-25 unaudited, primary operating fund changes, the impact of salary and benefit expenses, student enrollment decline, projection challenges and lessons learned, the amendment recommendation for FY26, and then a summary estimated with amendment change tools. The board has that amendment change, the hard copy in front of you, and then you've also got the digital copy on the board agenda. So primary funds and levy information, this slide is really the only review slide. Funds are the building blocks of school finance. And just as a reminder, the general fund is Fund 1 for salaries, benefits, non-certified staff, services, and supplies. Fund 2 is salaries and benefits for certified staff and tuition. Fund 4 would be capital projects, facility or land acquisition, construction, lease purchase, other capital, and then debt service would come in Fund 3. Operating levy may be placed within any of these funds. And we'll talk about the operating levy at our tax hearing coming up at 5:50 this evening. The Willow Springs operating levy is $275, and there is no debt service levy at this time. So our first slide, beyond the basic building blocks, the general budget summary for 23-24. So this is FY24. You will see a decline. We use the remainder of ESSER revenue for an elementary roofing project during this year, $434,000, and the Bear Training Facility, $679,000. Both of those projects were included in FY24. The operating balance percentage declined from 20.83 the year before, at June 30th, 2023, to 19% at June 30th, 2024. Budget summary for 24-25. So this is FY '25. This would be the year we just completed. These actuals updated with unaudited data as of July 29th, 2025. And the auditor is working through our data as we speak. 14% drop in the FY '25 balance. We completed a roofing project on the high school, completed at $654,000. There was no ESSER revenue this year, and we had delayed federal reimbursements that will show up in FY '26 that we would have expected in FY '25, but those reimbursements did not come in on FY '25 like we had forecasted that they would. So the operating fund balance percentage declined from 19% to 4.96% as of June 30th, 2025. Primary operating fund changes from 23-24 to 24-25. So from FY '24 to FY '25, overall revenues decreased $1,176,825. Reasons include local revenue decreased $170,000, primarily a prior period adjustment. State revenue decreased $183,000, almost $184,000 due to declining enrollment data and other calculation factors. State operating revenue decreased $434,000. Classroom trust fund dollars for the high school roofing project. Typically those funds have been placed in operating fund accounts. ESSER federal funds decreased $1.1 million due to one-time funding, and other miscellaneous revenue increases $745,000, including a $500,000 career tech grant. That was the DESE grant to make improvements on our CTE buildings. That was all a reimbursable grant. Overall expenditures increased $1.2 million. Reasons included increased number of positions, salary schedules and placement, and health insurance increase. The overall impact, there was an increase of $322,000. Increased purchase services cost $395,000, including a Stronger Connections grant. That was the mental health grant that we got a couple of years ago. $108,000 came from that grant. Behavior therapy for students, $107,000. Tuition for students, $84,000. And property insurance went up $70,000. Increased supply costs, $518,000. Again, primarily due to the career tech grant of $500,000. Additionally, a transfer from operating funds to the capital fund to set the balance to zero was required in the amount of $51,277. Impact of salary and benefit expenses. So going back to FY '19, so charting from FY '19 to FY '25. FY '20, that would be the COVID year. There was nothing done to the salary schedule, and in fact, we had a 0.34% drop that year. In FY '21, we went up 0.71%, and then some large salary increases beginning in FY '22 with a 6% raise, 8% after that, back down to almost 7%, and then 3% in FY '25. Net change over 5 years to 24.53% increase over the last 5 years in our salaries. Over the last few years, investments have been made in educators, creating recurring costs that cannot be funded. The increases included position additions and increases to salary schedules, including step advancements for teachers. Some increases to teachers' pay have been offset by state grant revenue, as noted. A number of positions were eliminated for the 25-26 school year to begin addressing the financial gap, and other solutions will be identified to address the situation. And we'll talk more about that momentarily. There's been a steady student enrollment decline. The data shows September enrollment each year, which DESE looks at our September enrollment count as the count in order to calculate our funding. Student enrollment has consistently declined over the past few years. The primary calculation factor for state revenue is student enrollment, and attendance. The formula allows districts to rely on the highest student data measure within a 3-year window, delaying revenue losses, and loss will not correlate to the same physical year. That's why you won't always see your largest drop correlating financially, because you're allowed to pick out of the last 3 years. The state adequacy target, the SAT, represents the calculated funding needed to educate a student and is set through a statewide calculation process. We've talked about this previously, but it stayed at 63.75 for many, many years. FY25, it jumped to 67.60, and in FY26, it's projected at 71.45. Additional staffing adjustments may be warranted in the future for our declining enrollment, which, as you can see, took a large hit in FY25 with 65 students down. Projection challenges and lessons learned. A cash flow projection tool was erroneously used, resulting in a false anticipated fund balance for 25 and 26. And to be crystal clear, I was the one using that cash flow projection tool when it was erroneously used, and I used that data to communicate to the board. The elementary and secondary school emergency relief ESSER funds inflated the operating fund balance and percentage beginning in 1920, peaked in 21-22 at 1.9 million. That money is obviously gone. The inclusion of the ESSER one-time funds within the fund balance influenced recommendations to the Board of Education for recurring costs in the 21-22 fiscal year, and it's continued over the past 3 years. Other observations, I would just add that I plan to move forward with Carol to continue to adjust reporting processes and post monthly budget updates. I would like to launch a budget transparency webpage with current fund balances, plain language explanations, and an updated timeline, updated monthly for our community and constituents to see exactly where we're at in this process in real time. So 25-26 budget amendment recommendation. Again, you have the budget in full as a hard copy, also attached to the agenda. General information has been provided within the budget amendment recommendation, and a review of revenue expenditures has occurred and will be ongoing. An operating trajectory document showing FY24 and 25 actuals and 26 projections is also included. The operating funds do not include debt service or capital projects. Additional documents are included to meet the requirements of Board of Education Policy DB for the annual budget. As part of board policy, the annual budget is to have, number one, a budget message with important features and major details, and we'll look at that. I've got some highlighted points in a minute that I'd like to call your attention to on the budget message. Revenue in detail, estimates for the new year and prior 2 years by year, fund and source. Expenditure detail, estimates for the new year and prior 2 years by year, fund, activity, and object. Debt schedules, require payments of principal, interest, and fees. That will be in the back of your budget amendment, and right now the middle school HVAC is the only debt schedule that we have. A general budget summary by fund, and that follows the Missouri statutes. So the budget summary for 25-26 estimated. So this is your FY26 budget. You can look that we are estimating an operating fund balance of 8%. That would be up from the 4.96 that we're at in FY25. Obviously still work to do there. A total change to the original posted budget for revenue is 1.7 million. Total change to the original posted budget for expense is 86.9. And you'll see the funds, the governmental fund, the operating fund, the expenditures and revenues. It's very important that the revenue obviously is bigger than the expenditure, and it is. So if you would look at your budget amendment sheet, the first page in there is the executive summary. And I'd like to just call your attention to a few bullet points from that document. In the revenue section, all revenue was reviewed and allocations are based on historical data unless other methodologies were available. So again, we're using historical data. Obviously, we want more revenue and we have hopes that that will come in, but we're not operating on that assumption. We're operating on historical assumptions. First bullet point, if you'll go down to the state adequacy target, again, it remains projected at 71.45 per student measure. The formula allows districts to rely on the highest student data measure within that 3-year window that we've talked about. The next bullet point in FY25, $434,000 of classroom trust fund revenue was placed in the capital fund. For FY26, that classroom trust fund revenue projection is included in the general fund and relies on the allowable general fund to capital fund transfer option. Utilizing this process allows revenues within the operating funds to remain consistent. So that's where the classroom trust fund money will lie. The current tax revenue is based on updated assessed valuation data, and we'll get to that in our tax hearing coming up in just a little bit, with a 93% collection rate applied. So again, we assume that not everybody is going to pay their taxes, but 93% is our estimate. Revenues delayed from FY25 to FY26. So these were revenues that we should have received in FY25, but we did not receive them until FY26. It was past the July 1 cutoff. That included $240,000 in career ladder funds and $400,000 in federal funds. So that's $640,000 that would have been on FY25 that will instead be on FY26. A future adjustment will be necessary for the teacher baseline grant. Again, that's a yearly appropriation decision by the legislator. Further review of all federal program revenue is recommended. And then finally, on the revenue section, a student activity budget for revenue is included in the amount of $300,000, and a $300,000 expense budget of the same amount offsets the revenue, resulting in a zero impact to the projected fund balance. The expenditure section. All expenditures were reviewed. The actual costs of FY25 have been included with known changes per category. Total salary and benefit projections include primary changes resulting in a net decrease of $898,000. The process deployed for setting the estimated budget uses FY25 actual plus or minus the changes noted below. Total salary and benefit reductions due to positions eliminated for this current fiscal year, 1.125, 194. Step increase for all eligible staff, 169,000. Health insurance increased from 5,982 annually to 6,342, plus required retirement match at 57,000. Participation in the teacher baseline salary grant to increase certified staff to a minimum pay of 40,000 or 46,000 for staff with a master's degree plus 10. 100% of the cost for this grant will be subsidized by the state of Missouri. This grant is dependent on state allocations and future budget amendments may be necessary. In other words, we'll wait and see if the state actually continues that grant. Retirement contribution rates remain at 14.5% for certified and 6.86% for non-certified employees. Further review of all federal program expenditures is recommended. Overall purchase services have been reduced by $37,304, and we will continue to look at ways we can cut spending as the year goes on. On the next page, overall supplies have been reduced by $867,762. A significant portion of the reduction is relative to elimination of the following: career technical supply grant from FY25 in the amount of $500,000, $140,000 for building upkeep supplies, and $90,000 for custodial supplies. A student activity budget for expenditures is included, again, in the amount of $300,000, where in the past approximately $6,000 has been budgeted. A revenue budget of the same amount offsets the expense. The 2022 lease purchase obligation in the amount of $26,798 for the middle school heating, ventilation, and air conditioning improvement is included. Expenditures in the capital fund are limited to $185,000 principal and $34,875 for the lease payment, and $20,000 maintenance equipment needs, and $10,000 transportation equipment needs. Following the August 22nd payroll, when all staff receive payment, a full review of salary and benefits will occur. The rest of that document has fund transfers and some plans there, along with some other general information. And the rest of your budget amendment recommendation has the actual budget with a breakdown of, again, the last 3 years with actuals, and then the revised budget for FY26. And then again, the back page of that is your amortization schedule for the middle school HVAC lease. Any questions from the board?
What is the point of moving the $434,000 from the classroom trust fund to the capital fund on this? Well, you know, relatively new to the
Sure.
board. What is the advantage or the point in moving that around?
That was Carol's recommendation, that it would be more consistent moving forward, so it's money that we can actually budget with, and putting it there allows more consistency. And I can get some more details if you'd like.
You mentioned up here the 400,000 that we got late from special
Yes.
ed, I think. Is there still another
There's another 300,000
that we're waiting,
Yes.
on?
Yeah.
And will that then be included?
That'll be added to the FY26 revenue
Once we get
portion,
it.
once we get it, but
But it's-
we're not putting it in until
Yeah.
we
Okay.
get it, but we are working towards that. That's the
So is that
assurance
moving a year
there.
behind or a year ahead, everyone? How are we missing the dates now for that? How is it being upstream from where it was to where we are now with that?
Things were not done that needed to get done to get that in time on the federal programs side of things, so it was sent to us after July 1. So now we'll put it in the FY26 revenue instead of the FY25. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but that's 2
Okay.
years in a row now. Essentially.
Well, there have been changes made in that area of our district.
The money coming in like that was special ed and career ladder, right?
Yes.
$640,000, that was what
Yeah.
we're talking, is that what you were talking about?
No, I was
How much
talking
did
about
you say?
special ed.
640.
Yeah.
I was talking about, there's another special ed payment.
Other than that, that's included in the 640.
No,
That is
it's
not-
not,
it's not
it's
in
not
there. That's not
included.
included. It's not, yeah.
It won't be included until we get it.
Right.
That should have been this.
That was reimbursable
Yes.
money, yes, that should have been here. And will be, but not on FY25,
So our actual reserves are sitting at 4.96.
or FY25, yes. With a projected 8% for FY26.
Can we just go back to how we got here? And can we just simplify that a little bit more?
Sure.
I mean, there's just a lot of numbers there, but
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the bulk of, there's two main components, extra money and salaries and benefits, correct? Is that
Correct.
my understanding?
Yeah, and then the roofing project, had I been more proactive, I would have seen that roofing project is going to deplete funds very quickly, and we could have waited on those roofing projects instead of continuing with the plan that had been made years
So,
before me.
the teacher baseline grant here, that is what the state says that we have, this is the minimum we have to pay teachers, they raise that minimum there, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, we did not, I mean, we've heard from the state that we're not sure if this grant's gonna stick around or not, so there's a potential that could cause us issues down the road, and we're required by law to pay this amount of money.
Right. So that was the thought too of when we were doing those salary raises, let's get it as close as we can locally to those minimum cutoffs, so we don't rely on the state grant to cover that money. Unfortunately, we raised that too high too quickly, that we weren't able to cover it with the amount of staff that we have.
Or we staffed too
Or we
much.
staff too much, either way, yeah.
Because we have to get that to where
Right.
the law requires us to get it, right?
Yes,
But we didn't downsize the staffing
correct, yeah. that's a
to
good way
match,
put it.
to match what our, is that a fair
Yeah, that's
assessment
right.
of what
Yeah,
what
definitely.
we ran into here?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, we've added staff for many, many years, and I don't know, I've been here my entire career, and I don't remember a time that we ever contracted staff.
2025.
Yeah, that's the year.
The beginning.
Yeah, yeah, there will be more.
Yeah, so simply put, we have these ongoing salary, obligations because of our salary schedule. And we don't have an increase in revenue, but we have a continuing increase in salary obligations because of our salary schedule. And then whenever we didn't decrease, staff as our enrollment decreased, it clearly caught up with us.
So the school got smaller with students, salaries got higher, and increased staff,
Correct.
Yeah.
is how we landed
And,
Correct.
where we're at.
Yeah.
And not being aware of these pitfalls as we went along
Sure.
the way.
Yeah.
and as Marty said, the ESSER money was a one-time fund, money, and we used it, or we looked at it in a way that it was gonna keep coming maybe. But we set our salary schedules higher and increased staff as if that money was gonna be there, year after year, but obviously it isn't.
We knew it wouldn't be,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So, just in an effort to dispel anything, is all funds accounted for?
Yes.
Is there any money in this budget or any of these budgets that's missing anywhere?
No.
Everything is accounted for.
Except for there's,
The stuff that's coming in.
Right,
Right,
right.
I'm not talking about that. There's
Right.
there's nothing missing there, all the money's here.
yes, yeah.
It was just overspent on
Like I said,
multiple things,
yeah.
but I'd say the big culprit would be the staffing side of things.
Sure, yeah, there's nothing hiding there, it's all.
This is it. This is the information.
Yes, yes. And you don't have to take my word for it, Dr. Embry combed over this, very well, very well.
And as our auditor reminds us every year, 75% of our expenditures is on staff. So if we want to make a dent, that's where we do it, one way or the other.
Okay. Are we moving to another section of this, or?
That's all I
Can you
have
fund-
as far as.
Can you handle some more questions?
Sure, yep.
So, where we're at right now is that we're still staffed how we were last year.
No,
No, we've reduced staff from last year.
considerably, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Any numbers?
Yeah, you had it here.
Yeah.
898,000.
Which is what, 898,000?
Yeah,
All right, so now because of the, what was the word, erroneous?
erroneous.
Yeah, because of the erroneous deal there, we have all of the staff still in place for this 2026, 25, 26 school year. Like, the staff is,
For the most part,
Right.
yeah.
so we're in a position where we cannot make adjustments to staffing on
No,
a
because
large
yeah,
scale.
we've offered contracts,
Because contracts have been offered.
correct. But there will be more adjustments made
Right.
before FY '27.
So,
Because this is not I mean, if everything, you know, we've got it budgeted to get to 8% next year. Well, 8%'s not, that's not good enough. That's not where we want to be. So there's gonna have to be more decisions made to keep that line going to where we hit double digits and start getting back up to the 20% that the board has for a goal.
So basically, we're locked in where we're at, on what it's gonna cost us to operate this school year.
Yes, minus additional revenue or, you know, things that happen. And we'll have amendments to the budget, and you'll get monthly updates as far as
And
how that's looking.
in the budget summary, it says, one very important point was total salary and benefit reductions due to positions eliminated is $1,125,194.
That takes into account insurance, retirement,
Right.
all of those other expenses.
So there's been that reduction for this year.
Correct.
Which probably wasn't taken into account during the hiring process, insurance, benefits.
Sure. It's an important part.
So let me, kind of so I clarify a minute. So 23-24, we were over 1.2 million, right? That's what we were in the hole on. And then this past year, it's over 2 million. Did I read that right?
What year are we referencing?
23-24 and 24-25.
You're saying the difference between the expenditures and revenues in
Right.
those 2 years?
Yeah. That's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
You look at,
Yeah,
yeah, that's 1.2, now go to 24-25, and you're over 2 million, 2.5 million, whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, the ESSER money's gone. I mean, that's.
Right.
So there's no revenue coming in from that.
and we still had the same staff.
Yeah, you didn't, we
decrease.
didn't change anything
Right.
in expenditures.
Decrease
But we
in
took out a
yeah.
huge chunk of
Right.
revenue.
Because it was one-time revenue.
Right.
So why didn't we? I mean, how did we miss the forecast this day?
Oh, that would be me. As I've said, I used a forecast model that told me some really good data, and I wanted to believe that data, and so that's the data that I went with. I trusted without verifying, and made a critical mistake, one that I won't make again.
So you didn't sit down with the bookkeeper and go over the numbers to
We did,
verify?
but nothing that would lead me to think that we were off.
Any other questions concerning the budget from the board? Then why don't we go ahead and open this up, because we're gonna be going to a tax hearing here in a little bit.
5:50.
For comments. Anyone that has a comment, this is an opportunity for you. Like I said before, we want to limit it to 3 minutes, and if you would, introduce yourself whenever you speak.
You know I'd say
Tony,
something.
yeah.
Tony Friggin. So, I talked to a couple of you guys today, but I'm bringing it to the attention of the rest of you. You know, I've got a little bit of experience back in here from way back in the Stone Age. But we used to get used to be every month, and then it switched to every 3 months. I believe it was like the general ledger in our board packet. And it went line by line showing what the budget was for the year for each line item, how much we had currently spent year to date, and it had the percentage of what we had spent. So it kind of gave you a snapshot. You could run, it was several pages long, but you could run through real quick that percentage and see that, hey, if we're in December, we're halfway through the year and we've spent 80% of our budget on some certain line, it should throw up a red flag that, hey, we at least, you know, as board members, if you're doing your job, you're looking at that and saying, hey, asking Marty, why are we at 80% of this? And sometimes there's a very good excuse. Is that something that you all still get and look at? That seems like, and you don't have to answer that, but that seems like something that would be, if you're not, very good to go back and be doing that. That's doing your job as a board to keep checks and balances in place on the superintendent. And if you're going over budget by that much every year, you know, $1 million, what'd you say, Coach Colley, $1.2 million and 2 point something. If you're seeing that every month, you should know where you're headed and make changes for the, I know you can't change then, well, you could. If they're going over budget, you can stop the spending then. That looks like something that the board needs to reconsider doing if you're not.
Fair enough.
Marcy Owens. The dismantling of the National Board of Education that President Trump did because he wanted the funds to be more local. Have you seen a change in your budget? Have you seen any changes of funds come to you from the federal government?
Not especially. We did have some shortfalls in the federal funding area, but most of that was due to our time frame of not getting those in when we should have.
Has anybody questioned the Capitol or questioned their senators or congressmen about this? Because the whole point of that was to take money that was not being responsibly spent and give it to the local people to spend in direct costs. So that's my question to y'all. Are you
Yeah,
gonna?
from what I'm seeing is, those impacts are down the road a ways. We're just not seeing any impact right now.
But certainly we want to keep tabs on that and be in touch with our legislators and,
Because it looks like it would help.
sure, absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing, and I don't want to be controversial or political or anything like that, but where are we in regards to DEI and woke and transgender and all these other agendas that President Trump has said will no longer be in our school systems? Where are we with that in this local school system?
We were limiting this to comments.
Yeah.
This isn't,
We're yeah, really not gonna answer that right here, but, I'd be willing to talk to you privately sometime.
You can come up and talk to me too.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to.
I think Robert Owens, I'm just I think the reason she's bringing this up is that we know so many families that's in the school district that are not sending their children to school because of those types of concerns. And so that's why she's asking that
Sure,
question,
yeah.
because the revenue would come up, because the attendance would go up, the kids and that kind of thing, so.
Yeah,
Very fair question. I'll be happy to answer it.
Okay, and the other is a budgetary concern. I don't want to see this school board budgeting any money for any of those programs at this, or staff
Sure.
going to that, so, yeah.
thank you.
Fire Rothermich. Upset where you guys sit. Some of you guys have taken my place. You was on board or came along right after I did. We was at a 27% reserves. How in the world does the board allow us to go from 27% down to 5% and not have some darn hard questions? I mean, I'm not expecting an answer, but I mean, I think you guys need to self-reflect on some of the questions as a board. You know, you guys should know. I mean, ultimately, the board is the one responsible. You shouldn't allow Marty to have gotten to this situation. Another question, I would like a breakdown, you guys might be able to tell me, but in the last 5 years, what percent have you gave salary raises? To individuals? Like, did you give 3% across the board, 2% across the board every year? 6%?
It was always across the board.
I understand.
Yeah.
What percentage?
We had it back on one of these slides if you'll.
So that was the percentage
Yeah,
across the board?
Yeah, we didn't specify from one, I mean, it was just all contracted staff. One year, there was more towards non-certified staff. I believe that was the year before I took over.
Can we get a breakdown as a board of the yearly salary increases?
Sure.
What was put out there what year and
Percentages, total,
everything?
all of it.
Yeah, just give us a breakdown, and could you give us a breakdown as well of the number of staff through those areas as well?
Yeah.
Should we include stipends with that, or is that what you're
I
referring to?
wasn't referring to it, but I wouldn't have any problem looking at it. If that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, I
That's
think
good
it-
information.
I think that's,
Is that something that can be compiled?
Sure.
because I think that all adds to the budget.
Probably 5 years, 10 years.
I would go 5. I mean, we're shooting back 5 there.
Gotcha.
Mr. Dunn, President Dunn, we have a.
Jeremy, man, my concern is, I know you're gonna be going into tax levy here shortly. People are already really taxed right now, if they're talking about raising taxes on our property and that, to help alleviate the shortfall. You know, enough people already living paycheck to paycheck and everything else. You know, my concern is, you're gonna hurt the community by doing that.
Well, any tax levy increase has to go through the voters, and we're set at the minimum that we're allowed to set it at. That's where it'll be.
I can tell you from experience, the tax levy hearing that they're about to do is a formality that the state makes them do every year. If their tax levy was higher than 275, which is the minimum, then they can talk about whether they want to run it at that or lower it. But where they're set is, it's set by state, unless the Howe County voters vote in a higher tax levy. So they can't raise your property taxes without a vote of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, school district can.
My name's Joe Dixon. When you guys have these discussions and make these cuts, I'm sure and really hope the priority is education, not football and track and the band, which can be important in their own right, but the education should be our absolute priority, not the buildings for extracurriculars. So, just a concern.
Yep.
Joe Henley, and it's gonna come out of a question, and I don't mean it as a question, is, do we have a plan to come back from this? And how are we gonna keep the students that we do have in the school and not going homeschool? And it's not really, it came out as a question.
No, and those are good things that we will be addressing both of those, and we do have a plan. And we do have, you know, it's only 8%, but that is an increase, and that's what we're gonna continue to work towards getting that higher and higher each year.
Jeremy, then again. So the governor recently signed in allowing like homeschool and that to start participating into extracurricular activities. How are you guys addressing that? And how will that be incorporated with those homeschool children?
Fantastic question, and if you'll stay for part 2 of our board meeting tonight, we will talk about that.
We're almost there, right?
We're almost to the tax levy hearing.
Oh, sorry.
So, with the time that's allotted to me, I'd just like to read into the record the questions that I will be submitting. I definitely don't expect any kind of response, but I just want to read them all. There are 20 of them. I'm sorry, I'm Amanda Mendez, I'm the publisher and owner of How County News. In this critical time for the district's spending, how do you, the board, justify the additional expense of an outside consultant? Is that not paying two people to do the same job? If Dr. Spence has made a mistake, which he has openly and honorably admitted, why can't we just let him fix it? Did you review and approve the August 5th statement, the budget message? And what does faulty data mean to you? What responsibility do you, as a board, accept in this district's current financial status? The August 5th letter reads, and Dr. Spence confirms that he is solely responsible for the current state of the district's finances. Is that accurate? At any point, did he come to any member of you on the board as a mentor, as a friend, and express concern about the inaccurate financial forecasts? For those of you who have been on the board a long time, especially our longtime coaches and those who have been around school budgets for decades, what makes this circumstance that we're in right now unique? In your own words, how did we get here? And were there really no warning signs in balances or authorized expenses over the last few years that gave a glimpse of the reality of last week's announcements? At which point did you, as a board, recognize that the reserve balance was critically low at less than 5%? At what point did you realize the projected revenues will be insufficient to carry current spending? The district currently has 14 administrators or directors, which is 7% of the workforce who cannot be terminated, but would rather have to be bought out of their contracts. Will you consider eliminating or combining these admin positions to keep lower level staff? Last week, every member of this board declined to comment on the August 5th announcement. Why publish a statement if you're not willing to answer questions on the record? Have you, as individuals, been answering questions offline for friends, family members, neighbors, constituents in any off-the-record capacity? And if so, why are you willing to communicate unofficially behind closed doors or privately instead of meeting questions head-on with transparency? Why the insistence on a unified statement as a board? You're not elected as a board, but as individuals. Why, according to your own judgment and knowing the people of this community as well as you do, is circling the wagons acceptable to your constituents? Is there any intent among you to offer resignations at this time? And what assurances would you like to offer parents, students, and voters as we head back to school next week?
All right, I think we're ready for the,
I would just make one
yeah.
other comment in what Amanda said, kind of. I just want to make sure it's clear. I did tell the board that it was going to be lower in FY '25. I did not expect it to be this low, but there wasn't an expectation that we were going to go up in our funds or even stay stagnant. We always knew it was going to go down. We just didn't realize it would be quite that significant, or I didn't realize it would be that significant. Just want to clarify that.
All right. Time for the tax levy.
Okay, tax levy it is. I may have to have Isaac come and help me. Never mind, here we go. So, as Tony mentioned, this is a yearly formality that we have to do, so I always put in a little history in mine just to fill up the 10 minutes so that we don't just sit here and stare at each other for 10 minutes, or I'm sure there's other things we could find to talk about. But instead, I'll drone on about the history of the tax hearing. 1982, Prop C was established a 1% sales tax for education. Half of the proceeds were used to reduce the operating tax rate, and Prop C is still around. The late 1990s, voter-approved constitutional amendments raised the operating tax rate. School districts were authorized to levy without voter approval from $1.25 to $2.75. So up until the 90s, you could stay at $1.25, but then it's now, and that's where it's been since the 90s, is that minimum $2.75. That allows school districts to approve operating tax rates by a simple majority up to $6, which we're a long way from that. Increased bonding capacity from 10 to 15% of assessed valuation as well. In the 2000s, new legislation was adopted requiring that school districts publish and conduct tax rate hearings. That is what we are doing right now. Requires that tax rate increases approved by voters be adjusted by reassessment the summer following the tax rate election. So our assessed valuation, and so this is our property tax revenue. These are our local fund revenues. Our collection rate we draw from Howell, Texas, and Douglas County in the Willow Springs School District. The majority of that obviously is in Howell County, but we do have pieces in Texas and Douglas County as well. So those are the combined efforts from all three of those counties. You'll see in 23-24, the assessed valuation was almost 98 million, 97.945. Tax rate of 275, so our expected revenue, our actual revenue that year was 2.693501. 24-25, our assessed valuation actually went down, and I didn't go back for 2021, but you know what what land value did in the years following COVID. It rose dramatically. But 24-25, we actually went backwards, which was another forecasting error that I made. I was expecting that to increase like it had every other year, but we actually dropped in 24-25. So instead of 2.693, it was 2.675, and certainly not an increase. We actually dropped 5%. This year, 25-26, I'm happy to report our assessed valuation went back up. We're at 105.806879, so we were expecting tax revenue from the local effort of 2.909689. There are 525 public schools in Missouri. Only 61 have a 2.75 tax levy. We are one of those 61. Local dollars can be used at a district's discretion as opposed to state formula dollars that have specific funding guidelines. We looked at those funding categories when we started at 5 o'clock, but local dollars can be used at a district's discretion. Local tax levies can be used for attracting high-quality teachers with competitive salaries, capital projects, improvements to existing facilities, safety of facilities. That's the best local control dollar that we have, our local dollars. So, I would recommend that we set the levy at 275.
We're gonna do that now, or we're gonna do that?
We will do that as items for action.
Right. Is there any comments concerning the tax levy? Not much we can do about it. All right. And,
We have 5 minutes before the regular
a
session.
few minutes.
Yeah.
Hey, Marty, would you mind backing that up 2 slides to
Sure.
assess valuation for me?
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
I have a question. Is
Thank
that
you.
based on that 93%?
Yes. No, sorry. That's just based on the valuation, yeah. So what's in your budget is based on the 93% of that. It'd be nice.
Good,
to
how
know.
about you?
Big office.
Bathroom? Both of them are in use?
Did you get it, Tony?
How you been? Calling you guys, come and sit my butt there where we're on the trailer at the stop. Well, okay, let's go over. Pull it in there. Okay. Four places today.
The personnel have already been moved to those sessions, so I don't say anything.
never heard us run.
On the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drove a truck. I coach.
Introduce yourself,
Did you? Was it like I said? Okay.
I have a work on mine.
Hey, how are you?
Right. But it still gives you a.
There wasn't a long time in between. There's always something to do, though.
Well, yeah. Well, we get, we got.
Send out.
Student activities account, yeah. That's a drop in the bush compared to.
But I mean,
Three
it
times last
should
week.
go on by
Yeah.
line, what they spend.
And we. That's a long way to go.
Well, we had a closing today in Columbia, so yeah, keep the road pretty hot.
We used to see it every 3 months.
I went down to,
A long time ago. And then they.
I went through Van Buren, but we were down by like, I was like corner of Arkansas. And I was too lazy to take my buggy, because it was just. it wasn't
Yeah,
very
yeah.
good.
Right down.
I got
Just click on that. But you go, okay.
Just right in the light, I got so.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some stuff and say there's a 300% of the budget.
It looked like it was
$1,000 life. I mean, that's, you know,
I'm going to step on anyway. But I think
That's my favorite part.
See the reserves.
That's why I don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It was my kids. That's good. We need to replace the Yeah. That makes sense. A little more flexible. Because we have to bring our own chair.
but at the end of the day, it's still the same amount of money when it goes south.
Some reason long Honest me, how I did that.
We've got a good friend
Chocolate pie,
As soon as that.
No, I appreciate it very much. I just retired from the military. I'm done.
Oh, I didn't do that.
I just get to sit
I
at
did
home
it.
now.
She said just had, I can't do it.
All right.
I had him on
No, I've got,
the beginning.
well, I've got two upstairs. I have one in the basement.
So a guy that pick him up in school. Anyway, he's in Sterling, and he's actually helping with the football program at Sterling. Anyway, really good guy. And if there's any way we can help him, very small.
I think this stuff that did not remember last year that come this, because I got some big tall stuff, and I know it can't be this year stuff, it's down like this year.
For the first 5 years, there'll be more and more of it. It gets thicker every year.
I hope. I just put counts in my other stuff. It's all
Once it's established,
the second customer better than the first. They're still in here.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, it's time to get going. You should have hung it. You should have phoned something.
Yep.
So I don't guess we need to call this part to order. We'll move on with the consent agenda. You have the different items on the consent agenda in front of you. Do you have anything to
I do not.
add or take away?
No.
Are there any questions concerning consent agenda items? If not, then a motion will be in order to approve consent agenda items as presented. Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Move on to administrative report. Or you
We've
want
got the
board
MSBA report
Okay.
first,
All right.
then we'll move on to the administrators.
Which takes effect on August 28th, marks a major milestone in Missouri's commitment to school safety. CES's Chief Operating Officer, John McDonald, says that while meeting the requirements of this law may take some work, CES is here to help every step of the way.
We at CES had the opportunity to collaborate on what became Senate Bill 68, and we're incredibly grateful for that opportunity. Our voice was heard. We appreciate that. The voice of school safety professionals across the state was heard. We're pretty excited about where it's going, but we know there's going to be a ton of work ahead for us at the Center for Education Safety, including all of the training that now has to be done. You know, there was a misconception out there that this bill would cost school districts a lot of money. It does not. It takes some time. It'll take some effort, but the effort is worth it, and the time is well spent.
Many districts have already contacted CES asking about what they should purchase to meet the new requirements. John has some simple advice.
What I'm sharing with everybody here is don't buy a thing. You're getting a lot of calls from vendors right now who are telling you that you need to buy their product to be in compliance with Senate Bill 68, and it's just not true. Most of Senate Bill 68 has very little cost to school districts. The cost is in the effort. The cost is in the time to get your team ready to go to be more prepared. It is not a huge monetary cost. And those monetary costs that are in the, don't come online for a couple of years. So throughout Senate Bill 68, we tried to find ways to enhance foundational aspects of school safety that don't cost a lot of money.
In addition to doubling the number of school safety academies to meet demand, the CES team will be delivering new updates and key training in new ways as well.
We are launching a webinar series, Lunch and Learns. We'll get into specifics about a certain aspect of the bill that's critical for schools to know. It's not just school safety people that should be listening or watching us. Our administrators, even our boards, our superintendents. I understand your time is limited, your time is valuable, but this is a big bill. And, I come from a place where I've learned over the course of my career that at the end of the day, in the aftermath of crisis and tragedy, you'll either have to justify what you've done or you'll have to justify what you didn't do.
To learn more about Senate Bill 68 and upcoming safety trainings, visit the MSBA website and watch the weekly for updates. Also, make sure that your safety teams receive the Safety Weekly emails from the CES team. John covered so much important information that we couldn't fit it all into the board report, so visit the MSBA website or the MSBA YouTube channel to see the extended interview with John. CES is also proud to co-sponsor MSBA's AI and Education Symposium Wednesday, October 22nd in conjunction with the MSBA Annual Conference in Kansas City. MSBA's Director of Digital Initiatives, Mark Henderson, says that the event has something for everyone regardless of your AI expertise or experience level.
AI is transforming education right now. Are you prepared to lead the changes in your district? At this one-day event, we'll explore how AI supports learning and how school leaders like you can lead with confidence. We'll kick off with Kim Carr, co-founder and executive director of Digital for Good and I Can Help, a nationally recognized leader in digital wellness and online safety education. Then you'll experience expert sessions led by practicing educators, technology professionals, legal experts, and student voices covering AI implementation in classrooms, cybersecurity, policy development, career readiness, and more.
Registration is open now for the AI and Education Symposium, as well as the MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators and the Missouri Association of School Business Officials. The conference will be held on October 23rd through the 25th in Kansas City. The event will once again feature numerous breakout sessions and workshops, many presented by school leaders from districts throughout the state, the Education Expo, and another great lineup of general session speakers. And it's not too late to register for MSBA's fall regional meetings this September. The topic is Phones and Funds, tackling today's tough school policy and finance issues. Held across all 17 regions, these meetings provide a great opportunity to connect with fellow school leaders, receive important updates, and participate in regional discussions that impact your local district. Visit the MSBA website to register for your region's meeting. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in September for the next MSBA board report.
We'll talk about more Senate Bill 68 policies as we go through the fall. But we do have a very good safety program in Willow Springs, and Glenn Moore is a part of CES, and you recognize the band probably from the video, but we have some good ties with MSBA and CES and good things that they're doing.
Well,
all right. So, admin reports. I've asked the admin to share goals for the coming year, since we don't really have any data to give you yet on students. They'll be focused more on goals for the coming year.
Good evening. Mr. Forrest and I have looked at several things, and we came up with 6 goals that we are looking at for this year to kind of focus on. One is to continue to increase student involvement in activities. I think we saw an increase last year, and we've got some other things that we're going to try to do and get kids more involved. 2 is to increase EOC scores. Some of our scores are somewhat consistent. I think biology and American government dropped a little bit last year, and we really want to focus on all of them, but especially those two areas, kind of get them back up to where they need to be. Goal 3 is to implement a Check and Connect program to focus on some of those at-risk kids, keeping kids in school. And number 4, increase the number of student internships. Internships is a good way for kids to get out and experience what a job or career could look like, and so get more kids involved in that. 5, maintain high staff morale and retain a high percentage of our staff. We've got a good staff and we want to keep them here. And number 6 is continue to build relationships with staff and students. And there's some numbers with several of those that we can compare from past years and see where we're at, if we're increasing the things that we want to or not. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is we're changing our participation policy for, typically it's been with field trips, no failing grades, 90% attendance, but we are expanding that to our athletics and our club competitions, so it'll be any activity that leaves during the school day, and they will be required to have 90% attendance and no Fs. And that's consistent with a lot of schools in our area. However, where we are going to differ from those, if you have 1 F, you could still participate because the goal is academics. If you have an F, you have to schedule that teacher for advisory 2 times a week, and you must come in for before or after school tutoring 2 hours a week. So they could still participate as long as they're working on trying to get that grade to where it needs to be. So that's something we're going to try, and hopefully, we do have some classes that are tough, and sometimes we've got kids that are right on that line and they dip below it from time to time, and so this is a way to encourage them, hey, you're not where you need to be, but we can give you a chance and still allow them to be able to participate in activities. We thought that was a fair way, rather than just say, nope, you're out. And with that, we'll check grades every 2 weeks and monitor that. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Middle school? Yeah, that's me. All right, good evening. Couple things that I want to talk about before we get to our goals. I do have some data. We had our enrollment for new students. We had 13 kids that have enrolled at the middle school, while we had 14 that had unenrolled. So it's really kind of a wash. That's kind of what we've seen the past couple of years. Of those that left, I know one of the topics has been homeschooling, launch, those types of things. We had 2 kids, only 2 that went to launch or homeschool. The rest of them were transferring out, going to other districts. So I'm sure I'll have more information on that at meetings to come. A few celebrations at the middle school. Our MAP data, obviously across the board, it's not exactly where we want it to be, but we are showing growth in a lot of areas. I'll talk a little bit more about that as far as some awards that we got. Couple areas that really shine is our 5th grade science. It's always very, very good. Ms. Lewis does a wonderful job, and so we're really proud of that. And then across the board, our 7th grade was really good. So what our takeaways from that, I'll talk about Tier 2 instruction here in just a little bit. 7th grade's doing that a little bit different, and so we're gonna learn from each other, and that was kind of the goal going in. And so that's kind of what we're going to do. So I'll talk more about that in just a second. As far as the awards go, the Prime Awards are through St. Louis University, and they recognize schools for growth. So it's strictly for growth. Some of it's sectioned off into just rural schools, comparing rural schools against rural schools. And so across the past couple of years here, they compiled some of that together. We were 13th in growth in ELA among all students, 12th in math among rural schools, and 3rd in ELA growth among rural schools. So it's nice to see some of your work paying off. And so, again, we're not where we want to be. I don't know that we'll ever be where we want to be, but I think we're definitely moving in the right direction. So that is a nice positive. getting into the goals, getting all kids involved. It's no secret that if we can get kids involved, everything's going to get better, including grades and what we're here to do, and that's educating kids. We are going to be implementing the Check and Connect system. If Mr. Cochran, if you want to talk, he's kind of heading that up at the middle school. So since you're here, if you want to talk.
Yeah, so I've come up with a plan. I'm going to group all the kids into probably 15 groups throughout the middle school. Each team, so 15 teams, each team is going to have 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders on it. Each team's going to have 2 advisors. Everything they do is going to kind of be a little bit of a competition, so attendance. Now, we're not going to know individuals. We're not going to post individual kids' achievements and stuff. But as a team, they're going to be able to gain points in attendance, MAP scores, showing improvement in MAP scores, improvement in iReady, less in if they're not coming to school, they're going to lose points for their team, and also discipline. They're going to be able to lose points in their team. So it's going to kind of be a little bit of a competition with some awards, and also a way that teachers can kind of check and also get 5th graders involved with 8th graders, and they can kind of interact a little bit, and in the middle also, and kind of spread that out a little bit. So we're hoping that'll motivate some kids, and every kid's involved in something on that team. So that's kind of the overall plan with that, is to have every kid involved on that team and make it a fun deal throughout the year. So we're hoping we can get into it and have a good time with it. And do some fun stuff throughout, some scavenger hunts, periodically, or some stuff, and some game stuff that they can compete against each other a little bit.
Okay. So we know if kids are a part of something, they're going to be a lot more likely to show up. And I think the most important thing, the number one reason why we see kids fail is because they simply don't show up. And so if we can get them here and we can get them organized and get them involved, the odds of them performing at a higher level just skyrocket. So that's the goal there. Second goal, our Tier 2 instruction. I mentioned earlier that our 7th grade, they had some really pretty good MAP data. And so we want to take a look at exactly what they're doing with their Tier 2 instruction. In the RTI process, the Tier 2 instruction is that instruction that a kid's not getting something on the unit or the lesson that day, and we want to immediately come in and provide them the support that they need so that they can get that, so that we don't get behind. Okay, so that's what we're doing every day during the middle of the day in our bear time. Okay, and so we gave each grade level, we've been at this a couple of years now, and we gave each grade level kind of the flexibility to figure out how they wanted to do that, what that was going to look like, because that can be a very cumbersome process. And it can get really confusing, not only for kids but for teachers. And so the teachers have had the ability to kind of develop their own system that works for them. And at this point, we have a couple systems that seem to be working pretty good. The 7th grade, obviously, one of them. We want to take a look at that. I want the other grade levels to be looking at that and pulling from it and taking from that and using what's working. So it's not rocket science. If it works, then that's what we're going to do. And then our last goal, after having talked with Mr. Cochran quite a bit, we just want to keep it simple. Focus on the good things that are happening. There's so many good things that happen in a school district that sometimes get overlooked, and we want to really focus on that and just be happy. That's what we want to do, is just be happy. A couple other things before I go to any questions. At the middle school this year, we are offering school supplies to kids for a total of $15. So I know that we constantly hear at the beginning of the year that is a strain on parents. We're offering, the kids can come in, open house, they can pick up their baggie from their grade level. Parents pay $15, they've got what they need. Okay. There's a couple of items that we didn't get that they will still have to get. I think a calculator and maybe earbuds, but that's it. So the majority of what they need, they're going to be able to pick up a sack and get what they need.
And on the earbuds, how we allow earbuds if we've done away with some of that?
Well, through their computers, when they have audio, and some of them have to have text to speech. They have to have things read to them.
For math testing.
Those
we
are,
have to have
those are
it.
probably wired.
For testing,
Yeah.
they are wired,
Yeah.
so they have to plug into the computer. So it's not through a phone or anything like that.
Just asking for clarification.
Yeah. Mainly used for testing. And then on the building update, we've got all TVs, I shouldn't say new. We've got several new from the Casey's grant that we received back in the spring. But at this point, we have updated all of our projectors. We no longer have a projector in the middle school. That's been a 3 or 4 year process of updating those. And the Casey's grant helped kind of finish that off. And I know that Mr. Talbert spent a lot of time helping out with that grant, and so just thank you to him for putting his time in with the grant. And then of course we're ready for school. The floors look good. The janitors and maintenance staff have done a great job, and the building looks great. So we're excited for open house, and we're excited to see some kids. So, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I think it's great you're doing the $15 to help them with supplies and everything. Some people, that's quite a bit of money. Have you thought about reaching out to the community, the businesses, to see if we could do anything to help with the ones that can't afford it?
Absolutely. I think next year this was kind of a late in the game thing that we're kind of trying it out, testing the waters here. But that is on our radar for sure, because we know that there's people in the community that would help out with that.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely something that you'll be seeing in the future.
Like what you're all doing there.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
All right, good evening. It's about that time. First of all, I want to give a shout out, John touched on this, to our custodial maintenance staff. Our floors look good. We've done some rearrangements, which no longer have the mobiles outside the elementary. Now we moved some teachers inside. Those rooms have been repainted and they look great. So we appreciate the custodial staff and maintenance and their work. We don't want them to think that goes unappreciated. So it's hard work and we appreciate it. First of all, before I get into the goals, I want to do a shout out to the staff. They're working really hard to prep for open houses and just the school year in general. Everything in the elementary is labeled. I mean, it's got to be decorated. Everything's labeled so they won't lose it and so on. The common planning, the meeting with the nurses to go over the medical conditions, food allergies. So a shout out to them. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's necessary. And it's good. We get a lot of new students and I'll touch on enrollment here in a second. So anyway, we want to make sure we're prepared for all students, but high-need students and so on and so forth. So, and the duties, lots of things like that. We do have 2 open houses coming up this week. We're consistent on one night with the other districts. We do have a kindergarten open house just because it allows those parents a little more time with a kindergarten student. It's brand new to them. It's brand new to the kids. Buses and so on and so forth. It gives us a little extra time with those kids, with those parents, being planned for that first day. And that first day, it can be challenging for everyone involved. It's good, but at the same time, it's just a little extra planning on our part to be ready for that. We spent a good portion of the year, start off on the right foot, building that staff morale. That's a big thing, and we want to, again, not keep it too complicated. Just keep things simple and upbeat and positive. Goals that we've talked about in the elementary building, and I know I've talked on this most times I'm up here. But typically beginning a school year, and this is kind of on the average, we'll have 20 to 30% receiving RTI, Tier 2 or 3 instruction. Because the Tier 1 in the classroom maybe just not be enough if the student needs a little extra work. So one of our main goals this year, other than the obvious things of a decent school year, is to try to get those students by the end of the year placed. Whether that be back in Tier 1 instruction, back in the classroom full time, where they can stay in there, work on their own, or if that student's really struggling, we may look into farther, see if that student may need an IEP, an individualized education plan. So at the end of the year, our goal is to get that number much lower. It'd be nice to not have any students in that tiered intervention, but once you have a student up to Tier 3, that means there's a lot of work going in there. We want to make sure we can provide each student with what they need. So I met with our interventionists, I've talked to some of our teachers, of what they thought would be a good goal to stick with this year, and I think that's a big one. So again, I think at the foundation, at the elementary level, we got to get those kids reading, doing their work, because it builds confidence for them to go up across the street to middle school and high school and so on and so forth. So that's a big thing, which as a result of that, we'll have an increase in MAP scores, I believe, if we get those kids where they need to be in the classroom and so on. And it'll have an indirect effect on the teacher retention, seeing those kids succeed. So, any questions? All right.
That'd be me. In case you don't know, my name is Barbara Medina. I'm the new Special Education Director. And don't have a lot of data or anything for you, but so far already, school hasn't even started. We've had 9 students transfer in and 6 students transfer out. I've met with 11 parents with concerns or because they're moving in. Already, we have completed 2 full evaluations and placed 1 student with an IEP before school's even started. Because special education never stops. It goes year round, and we have to meet our deadlines. Goals that I would like to accomplish or plan to accomplish this year, just district partnerships, just good communication between the education, special ed department and our regular ed department, from administrator to administrator, from teacher to teacher, from special education and regular education to all of our families and community members. Compliance is a big thing in special education. It goes nonstop. It happens to be all federal programs tiered monitoring year. So every 3 years, they go through different paperwork depending on what's required and what's going on outside of our district. So if they have what they call top 10 things that they are looking at. So the top 10 findings in the state of Missouri in special education statewide last year. Those are the things they focus on this year. So those are the things that we're going to make sure that we're doing within our special education department. So when they get our files this year, we're good to go. So some of those things are making sure that our IEP meetings are, we're letting our parents know 20 days before that happens. We got a meeting coming up. This is what we're going to talk about. So they have plenty of time to schedule, plan, ask anybody they want to come to those meetings. Myself or my process coordinator, Lindsay Schwalem, who's also new to the district, will attend every single IEP meeting this year. That way we're not leaving our teachers out to hang. We're helping our administrators out so they don't have to attend. So, and it also gives the parents an opportunity to meet me, my new process coordinator, and ask those tough questions, and hopefully we can give them the answers right there and then. In a case of emergency, something come up, of course, our other administrators will attend and help us out. Draft IEPs done by our teachers will be provided to our teacher, to myself and Lindsay, before those IEP meetings, so we can kind of look at them, make sure that we're on track. And then we will have our meetings. After the meetings, they will have 3 to 5 days to get those back to us. We will look at every single IEP, make sure it's in compliance before we finalize those, and send those to the parents within 20 days of that IEP meeting. What else do we do? Transition and SMART goals are always within the top 10. They've been in the top 10 findings for as long as I've been in special ed. So those will be a major focus, and that just means that our goals are specific and measurable and attainable for our kids, that they're appropriate for our kids. So, and in transition, what they're talking about is when our kids transition when they leave high school. We should have a full-blown plan starting in 8th grade, what our kids' plans are. And when you talk to kids, that changes. Any kids, special ed, regular ed, 10 times before they graduate. But we're gonna figure out what their plan is and help them accomplish that and give them some outside resources to attain those. Kind of conduct an overall comprehensive overview of like our therapy services, our extended school year, our staff, out of district tuition, transportation expenditures, just kind of make sure we're giving our students the best services that we can possibly provide, and of course make sure that we're getting the best services for our money. Improving test scores is always an issue. We want to make sure we do that, and how we'll do that in special ed is, of course, we're meeting with those classroom teachers. All of our students' IEPs are aligned with state standards. So we'll ensure that that keeps going and on, and then we have growth plans and everything. We have plans for all those kids of how we're going to get there. Personally, I want to strengthen the relationship between myself and my own special education staff. I'm new, they don't know me, I don't know them. So we're going to make sure that that happens. Allow for effective observations. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get in their classrooms, learn them, learn their kids. Came from a district that had been there for a long time. I knew all my staff, I knew all my kids. I had a lot of them in my classroom when I was still a teacher. And so I want to get to know all the kids at Willow Springs and the staff. ensuring that we're using appropriate technology with our kids in the classroom. It's really important in special ed. A lot of them need accommodations like the text-to-speech that we were talking about. They have devices that may help them communicate. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can for our students. I will assist in improving those standardized test scores by getting in there and showing the teachers what I expect of them and where we need to go. Can't think of anything else right now, but it's off to a big bang and we started real strong and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, welcome to the district.
Oh, thank you.
All right. For policy revisions, you have an option. You have all of the policies there. I sent this link out to you, and you don't have to tell me whether you watched it or not, but it's about 10 minutes, and if you'd like, I can play that link, and Susan Goldhammer with MSBA Legal Counsel does a nice job of going over the 5 policies that we're looking at tonight, if you would like me to play that.
I don't want to drag the meeting out, but I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Yeah, it's good. And I think she does a really good job of summarizing each one and kind of giving you the nuts and bolts of it. If Hobson wants it, we're going to do it.
That writes and reviews school district policy at the Missouri School Boards Association. MSBA has been assisting public school districts with policies for over 50 years. And we're so thankful your district is using our policy services. Welcome to the 25C policy update and the first of several updates based on new laws passed in the 2025 legislative session. The legislature was very productive this year. So many policies and administrative procedures were impacted that we plan to send out updates in 3 waves so that we don't overwhelm our districts. But please stay caught up. While policy might not be your favorite task as a board member or administrator, it is extremely important to keep those policies current. Please take action on these policies soon because there are more coming and you don't want to get behind. And if your district is already behind in its policy adoption, please contact MSBA and let us know how we can help you speed up the process and get caught up. We do worry that some districts are so far behind that they're way out of legal compliance. I know that's not what you want, so let's get started. Policy BDBA, Board Member Qualifications. House Bill 199 added an additional requirement to run for school board. A person cannot run if they've been convicted of or entered a guilty plea for first or second degree assault or harassment if the assault or harassment occurred on school grounds. MSBA is simply updating this policy to reflect this change. Please adopt this policy amendment. Policy IGBI, homeschooling and other educational options. This policy is currently about homeschooling, but we're expanding it to address other educational options as well. These changes are based on amendments in Senate Bill 63 that were advocated for by homeschooling families. They removed the language that allowed homeschooling families to register with the local school district simply to notify them that they are homeschooling their children. MSBA has added to the policy the statutory definitions of homeschooling and family-paced education. The only difference between these two is that an FPE school accepts state voucher funds, homeschooling does not. This distinction was created by the legislature last year when homeschooling families vehemently opposed the expansion of the state voucher program, fearing additional regulation on homeschooling families in general. Honestly, we did not think these new terms would catch on, but the legislature has used FPE again this year, so we decided to add it to the policy. Policy IGDAA, resident participant student involvement in activities and events. This is a new policy to address a new issue for schools. Senate Bill 63 now requires school districts to allow resident students who are not enrolled in or attending your school the opportunity to participate in some district events and activities. That's a huge change for most districts. So let's break it down. First of all, it applies to students who attend a homeschool, family-paced education school, or virtual school. Interestingly, the law does not require school districts to allow students attending a private or parochial school the opportunity to participate in activities. Your district might consider opening activities up to private and parochial students as well, but that's not required under this new law, and it's not covered in this policy. Not all activities are impacted by the new law, but most are. These resident students will have the opportunity to participate in fine arts activities, athletics, and co-curricular activities like FFA, speech and debate, or the Spanish club. These students must try out like other students, meet the same financial obligations, and follow the same rules as other students. If an activity requires attendance in a class or rehearsal, the student must attend that class or rehearsal. But the law never states that we can require the students to be enrolled. Students must meet the same eligibility requirements, but if a student is homeschooled, parents will provide the information on grades and attendance. MSBA has worked closely with the Missouri State High School Activities Association in developing this policy, and we appreciate their input. MISHA will call this classification of students resident participant students in their rules, which is why the policy uses this term, to avoid confusion. This policy is based on the law and is intended to assist the district in implementing the law. However, the board is not required to have a policy on this topic as long as the district follows the law. Because the law is quite vague, I recommend that you adopt this policy to better inform your staff members on the rules and expectations. Policy IGD, District-Sponsored Extracurricular Activities and Groups. MSBA is updating this policy for two reasons. One is to address the issue we just discussed, that a resident child does not have to be enrolled in the school to participate in some extracurricular activities. This change simply aligns the policy with the new one. The other reason we're amending this policy is to address current state law on transgender student participation in athletics. Essentially, the law bans transgender female students from participating in female athletics. It also bans transgender male students from participating in male sports unless there's no corresponding female sport to participate in. The language of this policy is based on this law. Please note that the law does not require that districts include this language in their policy, but all districts must follow the law. It is also important to note that the state statute expires in August of 2027. There were efforts to rescind the expiration date this year, but they were not successful, at least not yet. So it is possible that this policy will need to be reversed in a few years. Also, the United States Supreme Court just announced that they will hear cases challenging similar laws in Idaho and West Virginia. So this is an ever-changing area of the law. That said, MSBA does encourage your district to adopt these changes as they simply align this policy with current state law. That said, neither change is required to be in policy. If your district does not want to add this new language until the law is completely settled, simply notify your policy editor or take the language out. But remember that the district must still follow the state statute. Policy IGCDA, full-time MOPAT virtual courses. This policy addresses students that live in your district that are enrolled full-time in virtual courses under the Missouri Course Access and Virtual School Program, or MOPAT, which allows virtual course vendors to enroll students directly and receive state aid for educating them. These students are not enrolled in your district and attend virtual courses through the vendor full-time. But state statute has imposed some requirements on your district, which is why there is a policy. Part of this policy states that these students are not eligible to participate in extracurricular activities in your district because they're not enrolled in your district. But of course, the law has changed now, and resident virtual students can participate in extracurricular activities in your district. This change is simply being made to align the policy with the new law, so please adopt it. Policy IGCD. This policy addresses students enrolled in your district that are also taking classes virtually. MSBA is taking the opportunity to add some language to this policy that states that due process is required if a student is moved to virtual courses due to disciplinary purposes. We have had a couple of court cases on this issue, and we want districts to be aware of this legal issue so that they can discuss it with their district's attorney if this issue were to come up. This policy change is recommended, but it is not required. Policy JFCD, student use of personal communication devices. Last but not least is the cell phone policy. This is a new policy. As you may have heard, Senate Bill 68 requires that each school district have a policy that prohibits student use of cell phones and other personal communication devices in school during the school day. That includes breaks and lunches as well. There are some narrow exceptions which are stated in the policy. This policy is not optional. Please read it and adopt it quickly. And please make sure that the student discipline code and handbook language matches. That's all for now, but please keep moving on your policies. Please have another batch very soon.
I have a question about this.
Sure.
So, as we were stating, Mr. Schmidt was saying that students have, if they have an F and have not attended 90%, are we gonna keep the homeschool students to the same standard? And checking their grades every 2 weeks? Is that?
Yes, but we can't. All we can do is ask, do they meet the qualifications?
Right. The
It's up to
parent
the parent, isn't it?
is ultimately responsible for that
Packer
grade.
says, yeah,
But if they said, no, they're not, then we would follow our guidelines.
And they're not required to give us any documentation of it?
No.
Well, I mean, we aren't responsible for their education. That's
No,
done
we're
by
not.
the parent.
Correct.
And so you have to trust that the parent is going to provide the information to the school district so their kids can participate. Did you have anything else? The policy that you referenced there with the transgender and all that, except
Correct.
is that, is that in here? Do we have
Yes.
a policy? Which
Yes.
I
It should
couldn't
be
find which one it was.
IGD.
Okay. Just wanted to look at that word again.
Senate Bills 68 and 63 were the two big policy.
So this language is banning males from participating in female
Correct.
athletics.
Off their birth certificate, right? Yes. Or vice
But
versa.
they mentioned that the law wasn't complete.
The law has an expiration date of, what she said, 27. But, so it's a little bit still in flux, but
So-
at least for the next
So we can
3
adopt
years.
this policy.
Yes. I would recommend that.
Yeah, it
yes.
aligns with.
Yeah.
So we've already got a cell phone ban, we don't need to do anything
Correct,
with that.
correct. It just, 90% of this is just taking law and putting it into our policy and making sure that we're doing what we need to do.
On the cell phone policy,
Mm-hmm.
we already have one, right?
Correct.
Do we have a board policy on
But
that?
I don't think we.
I don't
have
think we
board
do. This
policy.
would be
Yeah.
the board policy
It was
on
a
it. With
procedure and,
Procedure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I assume our discipline policy and procedures,
Yes, that would be
It would match.
consistent.
court match up with this, yeah. Perfect. Any other questions concerning any of the policy revisions? A lot of changes.
Yeah. More to come. More to come. All right, the next, I have the FY '26 budget update, which we've already completed. And then Mr. Wagner has our professional development plan.
Yeah,
You
and
have that on your tablet as well.
yeah. Our professional development plan is just an extension of our CSIP plan. It has to be approved every year by the board, and we do have to provide documentation of that when we are graded on our CSIP here. And our next CSIP review by the state is going to be in December. We turn in our documentation in December, and they'll start grading that in January. So this is more than just the plan. There are some other things that are tied to it, but in general, our PD plan just outlines our basic goals for professional development in the district, and how it connects back to the bigger CSIP plan, and then it outlines our calendar for the year, who our professional development committee consists of, and then how we use data to help determine our professional development needs.
Chris, for those that aren't familiar with the acronyms that we use, CSIP, could you
CSIP.
just kind of mention?
It's our continuous school improvement plan, and it is something that every school district in the state has to have, and it's just basically our strategic plan for the upcoming year and beyond.
These,
Yeah, those goals. Yeah, your goal sheet. That's basically the 500-foot view of the CSIP plan on the on the dark maroon side.
and then more specific.
500 foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Wagner? Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
And our second opportunity for comments from guests. Yes, sir.
Joe Dixon, the private school thing says up to the school district. Are we allowing private school students to participate in extracurricular?
That'll be a future discussion, but yeah, we're looking at that.
Any others? Yes, ma'am.
There were a lot of looks exchanged, a general disdain when we asked the question about parents providing information. Would anyone like to elaborate? Homeschool parents providing information on their own kids' compliance requirements. I noticed it went all around the room like wildfire. Would anyone like to explain?
There are some, not all by any means, but there are some parents that maybe not doing homeschooling efficiently, and so we would be concerned that there wouldn't be accurate grade keeping. There are many, many homeschool parents that are doing it exceptionally well, but there would be a concern that some maybe are not. I'm just speaking for me.
I have a question. Why do you think so many students are leaving the school district and going to homeschool?
Probably a variety of answers to that question.
It seems like more and more people consistently are dropping out and going to homeschool and other avenues versus being in the school setting.
Virtual options are certainly a big issue right now, and they've made it very easy for families and students to take that route, and that's a legitimate educational route for some, but it's not always the best choice for others.
Yeah, we're not the only school that is
Oh, I
doing
know, I know.
this.
It's something we're constantly fighting.
So what are we gonna try to do to keep these kids in
We
school?
had,
Because I know a lot of them, especially in the high school, me personally, I have a lot of concern when they're dropping out, and then we get them to come like down to my business. They can't read, they can't count change, they don't wanna interact with the public, and I'm like, what's going on here that's got them to this point? It bothers me.
Yeah, we had a really good discussion a couple of months ago with the high school about that here in the boardroom, and we'll continue to address solutions for that problem, because there's a lot of
I know there's
angles and a lot
dynamics in
of
it. I understand.
areas we need to get into, but we're working on it for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the Check and Connect program that
Yeah.
they're starting also.
Yeah.
I like
Make sure that
Yeah.
a kid has an adult that they're close to, that they're checking on and kind of forming that relationship and making sure that they're where they need to be. Yeah.
One thing for future planning also that I failed to mention earlier, that the board needs to consider, obviously you said that you're gonna have to downsize staff. One fairly simple way to do that that's been discussed in the past is to do away with the block scheduling. Just something for y'all to keep in mind moving forward. No, it's not the popular option amongst the staff, but sometimes tough decisions have got to be made by the board members and not the staff about how to do that.
All right.
I personally also hear, just to interject, that a lot of kids do not want to do the senior project. They aren't interested, they leave our district because of it, they leave the school period to homeschooling or whatever avenue just because of the senior project. It is just a negativity.
Here we met again. My son dropped out and did the thing at Springfield, and he was able to graduate early because Willow requires additional credit hours to graduate Willow, when he actually then, by doing that, graduated half a semester early and didn't have to wait to graduate.
Thank you. All right, any others? Then we're ready to move on to items for action. So a motion would be in order to approve the tax levy at $275 for the 25-26 school year. Is that correct?
So.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we had a lot of talk about the budget. A motion would be in order to approve the FY '26 budget amendment as presented.
That is this
That
budget
is,
right here.
that's the hard copy plus what you had on, right.
So moved.
Motion's made
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. And a motion would be in order to approve the policies as presented. I'm not gonna read all those.
I've got them if you want me to, but as presented is fine too.
As presented. Any further discussion on any of those? Okay, motion be in order to approve those.
So moved.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we've had the professional development plan presented. Motion would be in order to approve the professional development plan as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we will need a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel and
Student discipline.
student discipline.
So moved. Second.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right.